my name is Lindsay. Unlike many of you, I don't have fancy academic titles. I'm working towards my master's at the moment. But my background really is in teaching. So just to give you a little bit of context before we hop into the session, the session is going to be very interactive and hands-on. So I would recommend that you have a device out and open and connected to the Wi-Fi. The Coastlands Wi-Fi network details are over there on the board. If you're having difficulty, I have got a backup router, so I'll move around and make sure that you're all connected in a second. But we are going to do a lot of playing and a lot of hands-on stuff today, because I feel like a lot of what Professor Ngami said this morning really resonated with me, and I was very pleased that my session aligns very nicely with the kind of pedagogy and activities that he was talking about. And I totally agree that we need to know why we want to integrate technology, but once we understand the why, then of course the next question is, well, how? So I'm really hoping that this session is going to give you at least one or two tools or different ideas for how you can use technology to connect with your learners and connect them to their learning. So a little bit of background about me. I started off my teaching career as a high school English, geography, life orientation teacher, and I started off teaching very much in a what we would call the lovely chalk and talk environment. You know that one? I'm going to skip to that slide here. This is what you get when you Google the word teacher in 2018, when you do an image search, right? The chalk and talk champions of the 21st century. That was me, attempting to keep my students entertained with my bad jokes and my worksheet after worksheet monotony. And I taught like that for many years, and my students said that I was a good teacher, but I don't think it had anything to do with my teaching. I think it was more to do with the fact that I was able to connect with them in my relational approach to teaching, not so much my pedagogy, because if I look at it now, I'm embarrassed to think about how I actually taught, right? But what happened to me was that so this was actually a school just down the road in KZN where I started my teaching career, and what happened to me was that I got a job at a school in Cape Town, which is an Apple one-to-one school and a Google school, which is almost unheard of in this country. And so I got thrown into kind of this crazy immersive environment. And I walked into my first class, and my students all took out their shiny laptops and looked at me. And I had a little bit of a crisis. And there may have been some bad words that went through my head, because I suddenly went, I don't know what I'm doing. What is this technology doing in the classroom? Why is it competing with me? I want you to listen to me, not look at those screens. And I also realized that it meant that my students didn't need information from me. So I had to discover, through kind of a series of experiments really, balancing the pots on my head, I had to discover what that actually meant for me, and what my role as a teacher meant, how that was going to change, and also how I was going to connect with my students who didn't need information from me, which was the only thing pretty much that I was used to giving. And so in that space I really went into experiment mode. And my motto was to be brave and try things. And lots of the things that I tried failed. But Woody Allen says if you're not failing every now and then, you're not doing anything innovative. And I'm not sure when last you, as an educator, feel like you failed. We don't really like doing that very much. We like to maintain high standards, and we like to do our job. And that's a lot of the struggle for us, but fortunately a lot of the things that I tried were successful, and I was recognized by Apple as an Apple Distinguished Educator in 2015, by Google as a Google Certified Educator, and later Google Certified Trainer, and I won some awards you can read about in my bio for integrating technology, teaching and learning. But I'm really not an awards person. For me, those were milestones on my own personal journey. If you told me then that today I would be standing in front of esteemed academics such as yourselves presenting about technology and education, I would have told you that I don't like technology, I like people. And at that stage, my tech skills extended to being able to put marks in an Excel spreadsheet and send some messages on media. I'm not kidding. That was it. So everything that I've learned, I'm now a Google Certified Trainer, work with teachers all over the country. Recently I've been given opportunity to work with teachers internationally in a number of countries. And everything that I've learned, I learned through trying. hands-on and failing forward and iterating the process every time. Also, everything that I've learned through connecting with other people, which is why I totally echo Prof's message this morning that we need to copy and steal from each other. So I'm going to give you a whole lot of stuff today that you must please copy and steal. Please, please, please take it all, use it, spread it, and also share back. So you'll see that on the site that I've created for this session, I'll go back to that link in a second. You'll see on that site that I've created for the session, there is a form at the bottom where you can actually share resources back with me, and we can create a community of practice around what we're going to do today. So again, that link to the website, which will remain active, it's not going anywhere, which is basically a repository of resources for today's session. If you type in bit.ly/TWT 2018, just make sure that you get the cases right. Those links are case sensitive. You see something that looks like a sunset, just go back and double check that. Then, so that site has got this presentation on it. It's also got a number of other resources which will make sense once we've gone through this journey. But for us to actually go through this learning journey, I'd like to use Google Classroom as a platform to engage you as my students. So one of the things that I'm incredibly passionate about, especially in the realm of teacher education, is that the pedagogies that we use in teacher education should mirror the pedagogies that we want our teachers to use in their classrooms. Make sense? Right, so I'm very much not a fan of the sit and get professional development. I'm very much a fan of this kind of hands-on workshop, actually using the tools, demonstrating the pedagogies I'm promoting. So I've tried very hard to do that with the session. You can let me know at the end how you think that's gone. So just out of interest, how many of you have used Google Classroom before? Okay, 2 of you, right. So the company that I work for now is called Cloud Education Solutions. We are a Google for Education partner in the country, so we help schools and universities go Google and offer training on the Google for Education platform. So I wanted to give you not only experience of HyperDocs, which is the focus of the session today, but I wanted to give you an experience of using Google Classroom. Right. So Google has special Google for Education accounts, which they can create for schools and for universities. But most of you will know Google as in your good old Gmail account, right? Okay, so if you have, how many of you have a Gmail account and you know the password to that Gmail account? Yeah, the password bot's a problem, right? Okay, so you won't miss out on everything if you can't join us in this classroom. But if you, I'm going to try and get us all into this Google Classroom for now. If you are not in the classroom, then maybe you want to move and sit next to somebody that is, so you can at least see and then engage together. And I'll make a plan to get you some of the resources another way. But so that first link at the top, that is the site. Then to get into Google Classroom, which is kind of like an LMS but more of an engagement platform. I don't like to think of it as a big LMS like Moodle or those kinds of things. For me, it's more useful for student-teacher engagement. So in this case, you get to be my students today. Aren't you lucky? Unlucky? Depends on how you look at it. So to access Google Classroom, if you type in classroom.google.com, so if you've got the site open, just pop open a new tab, type in classroom.google.com. Then if you do have an education account, you'll just need to switch into your personal Gmail to access this. So if you are using a Google Education account, just switch over to your personal Gmail. If you're on a tablet or a phone, it may be easier to use the Google Classroom app itself. Right? So depending on your platform, what I do love about Google Education Platform is that it's entirely device neutral. So it doesn't matter what device you're working with, and in our context, we're always working with generally a hodgepodge of devices. So when you get to classroom.google.com, in the top right hand corner you'll see there's a plus button, and it will ask you to if you want to join a class, and if you pop in that code, that'll add you into my Google Classroom. So you're just using your personal Gmail account to sign in, and then use the plus button, select join class, and pop in that code. That is an O at the beginning, not a 0. So the only number there is the 8. Okay, if you, I'll give you some time to get into that classroom. When you're in that classroom, you'll see there's a little post where I'm asking you to introduce yourself to me and tell me a little bit about you. If you could hop into the comments there and type and engage with the others in the room until we've got everybody into that space, and then we can kick off in there. in activities. Okay, if you're having any problems, please wave at me. I'll do what I can to help. So those of you that are in the classroom, the first task is to introduce yourself in the comments. And then if you scroll down a little bit further, there's an activity where I've used a tool called Answer Garden. And I'm asking you to describe the elements of an awesome lesson or awesome learning. So your first task is to tell me a little bit about yourself. Then scroll down and click on the link to open up the Answer Garden, which will give me a chance to get to know a little bit more about what you think about what makes awesome teaching and awesome learning. Okay, so while you're busy logging in, I know you can multitask because anyone in education can. I just wanted to take you back to a little bit of my story and think about why I wanted to use HyperDocs, and then we'll get into some of the practical stuff. So essentially, to use fancy academic language, because I do have some, I like to call myself a wannabe academic. So you are all the real academics, I'm the wannabe academic. And I only want to be an academic when it translates into practice. Alright, that's my jam. But essentially, what I realized in my own teaching is that the traditional view of knowledge that we have, where the teacher is the dispenser and the fountain of knowledge, is now no longer actually valid. Because if our students have information in front of us, what do they need? Right? And knowledge begins to take on different forms. And I really like Bolstad. I was reading about future-oriented education. I highly recommend it. And they say that a more progressive view of knowledge has knowledge as a verb, where we are actually creating and using knowledge to solve problems. And with that in mind, essentially what we need to do is we need to empower our learners to use knowledge to solve problems, to be able to collect knowledge and apply it in various different contexts, right? So, like I said, you've got these slides. This presentation is on the website, so you can go back and digest it later. But really what I came to understand in my own teaching is that I needed to shift from a teacher-centered environment to a student-centered environment. Because where we have myself as the authority transmitting the knowledge, as Professor Ngami said earlier, we're just not reaching our students. Right? They're just disengaged, they're not interested, it's not working. So what does work is to shift the culture to a student-centered learning environment. And part of that includes engaging students in active learning. Part of that also includes differentiation and having students go on their own learning journey. Now for me as a teacher, and I've actually just seen it in this room right now, we all operate with different strengths, different learning styles. We are all on different levels. What I have been able to do already in this session is to engage those of you who are totally comfortable with technology, you've got good connection, everything's fine. You were not sitting here waiting for me to continue to deliver. Not so? You were engaging with each other in conversation, you were contributing. Right? And for me, that's one of the things that I'm really, really passionate about when we're integrating technology into teaching and learning, is that I don't have to be the one-size-fits-all teacher. As Dick said this morning, we can create learning journeys that meet our students where they're at. And that means that we can actually respond to our students' differences and our students' needs using technology. And I think that's what actually connected me to this technology thing. Because remember I said to you, I like people. I want to connect with my learners, right? But I can't do that because there's one of me, and how many of you are in this room? Probably 50. Right? But using technology, I can, and that's what I really get excited about. Using technology, we can also engage our students in multimedia learning journeys. So you're not just getting learning today from what you're hearing and what you're seeing, but I'm hoping that today we're actually going to engage you in the learning via doing, which as we all know is far more pervasive and far more long-lasting. So why HyperDocs then? Well, for me, HyperDocs is one of the different strategies that I've used to do this kind of teaching and learning. But there are three ladies in America who kind of coined the term HyperDocs and have essentially made this a thing. So you're going to see a lot of you will say, well, this is really similar to this other thing that I'm already doing. Right? That's fabulous. We're not about, it has to be a HyperDoc. We're about progressive pedagogies that differentiate, that individualize, that scaffold learning for our students. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, cool. So, if we hop out, I'm going to hop out of the slides now, just give you a little bit of a background. So what you're seeing over here with the red looks very much like yours, but this is the teacher view of Google Classroom. Okay, so if you were to use this with your students, what your students would be seeing is kind of what you're seeing now, and what the teacher is seeing is up here. What is really helpful to me is that very quickly I can actually see where you're coming from, what you're doing. If I wanted to do that individually, that would be the end of the session, because there are 50 of you and one of me, right? So that's just using the adding an announcement post to the class, and then you're all replying on that announcement, okay? Underneath that, I asked you to do a little assignment for me. So on my teacher view, I can see, let me just go back here. If we open up that assignment one more time, that will take us over here to the answer garden. How many of you managed to see the answer garden? So if you're in Classroom and you haven't found the answer garden yet, if you just scroll down to beneath where you posted your introduction, you'll see there is an assignment. If you click on the title of the assignment, that should open up a little block where you see the answer garden link. Okay, so if you're not there yet, if you can head over there now. So again, my view looks different from yours because this is the teacher view. Yours will take you to something that looks like this. And you pop over to click on Answer Garden. And that will take you to this over here. Anybody ever used this tool before?
No.
How could you use it with your learners?
Answer card.
Yeah.
So, are they only 20 characters?
So I've set the limit on this one to be 20 characters, but you can do multiple inputs, right? So the maximum limit on this particular tool is 40 characters. So the reason that it's limiting your response is because it's designed to create this kind of word cloud, right? And what it's doing with the word cloud is it is creating, the bigger the word, the more often they're coming through. Okay, so this is actually a collective representation of your ideas. So as you add the words, they're appearing larger on this word cloud. Okay, so now we understand a little bit more about how it's working. What different ways could we use this in our instruction? How have I used this? This is like a lovely good old baseline assessment, yes? I want to know what do you understand by what makes engaging learning more a great lesson. So now I've got a nice vision, but things like integration, actualization, connection, value, those are the things that you already know make for engaging learning. So what I want us to do today is to explore using hyperdocs as a tool for cultivating that kind of learning. Because that's what we want. Because we know that that is the kind of learning that's pervasive and that's meaningful and that's valuable. Right. Anybody got ideas as to how we could use that other than a baseline assessment that you'd like to share? Well, I do some work in the background here. Brainstorming, right? So even what questions do we have about this topic? What are we wondering about this topic? Before I say today we are going to learn about blah, blah, blah. Right? Give me what you already know. What comes to mind when I say insert term that you need in your teaching here? And now we're gathering some reflections. We're activating. So in your Google Classroom, if you're in Google Classroom, at the top you're probably going to see a black box that says stream was updated with a little word show. If you don't see that, just hit your refresh at the top just to make sure that it comes through. It will come through in time, but I have now posted that out to you. If you are in the assignment where you can see the answer garden, just look for a little back arrow in the top right. That should take you back into the Google Classroom. Not get there. Okay, let me do that live. So if you're in the answer garden, let me just help you get to that. If you were in the answer garden view, and you're in something that looks like this, right? To get back into the Google Classroom stream, if you just click on the title of the classroom at the top left there, that will take you back into the stream. Okay, I'll come around and help you get there. I just want to explain it and then you can get going on it. So I'm going to give you about between 5 and 10 minutes to have an explore. If you click on the title, that will open up the assignment. You will see something that looks like this. What I've done is I've collected some examples of hyperdocs for you, right? There are some higher ed examples, and just so that you know what's coming up to you from schools, right? There are also some high school examples, so you can choose which examples you'd like to explore. Okay. So main thing is to come back to the main part of the classroom. Then you should see the new assignment at the top. And then that should take you into the instructions where the examples are listed. If you're having trouble getting to anything, wave at me, I'll come and help you. Otherwise, I'll give you some time to explore those different examples. Okay, I'm going to pose a question in the classroom. But my question is essentially, what is intriguing you about what you are seeing in your hyperdocs that you're exploring? So that little strategy comes from the Harvard Visible Thinking Routines website. I'll post the link to that over here as well. Really helpful little resource. I got very tired of asking teenagers, what do you think? And then, and you get these inarticulate, badly constructed answers. So the Harvard Visible Thinking Routines, this is just one of them, See, Think, Wonder. There are a whole lot of them that I really recommend using as a strategy just to help students construct their thinking. So even this morning, like when we were talking about, well, are you using Facebook, how are you engaging students? Maybe when you give them a structure within which to answer, that's actually going to help stimulate the right kind of discussion. Right, so once you've done some exploring, I'll give you some more time to explore, there's no rush. But once you've done some exploring, you will see a little space to answer the question. Once you've answered the question, you will then be able to see your classmates' answers. A lot of you are harnessing or highlighting the interactive element, also just the color and the presentation. I think that is, in the digital age, we forget that color is free.
Yeah.
Sometimes we grew up in the print era where color was expensive, so we went with the minimalist approach. But now, actually, in the digital age, color is free, and that's definitely something that we can leverage in learning, irrespective of the age of our students. That's definitely something that we all can kind of resonate with. Yeah. Absolutely. So it's a very, very valid point. Is bearing in mind as far as accessibility goes, people with visual impairments or color blindness, whether you're choosing colors that would accommodate for that. So there are actually some bad examples of that in that collection. I do acknowledge that. But I really like the fact that you're intrigued as to how your students would respond. The great thing is you actually get to create one now and try it out and see how your students will respond. But some wonderful creation resources there. But the one thing that does come through, and I'm going to go into a little bit of traditional teaching mode here because there is value in that still. The one thing that does come through is that a lot of people, when they see a hyperdoc, they see a doc with links. Right? And I think it's very important for us to understand the difference between a hyperdoc and a doc with links. So if we look at the etymology there a little bit, hyper meaning excited, keyed up, also makes us think of the word hyperlinks. Right, but you need to understand also that a hyperdoc need not actually be a document. So you could use slides. Some of those examples were using slides or PowerPoint type of delivery. Some of them are using sites. There are various different platforms that you can use. I really like this definition of hyperdocs because what it actually speaks to is the fact that this is a transformative digital lesson delivery. And as you can see, it's designed to shift from the traditional one-size-fits-all teacher mode of instruction to a differentiated, student-paced, student-centered type of learning. Ideally, we want there to be some kind of inquiry or questioning that's happening with that. And ultimately, the key thing is that there's exploration. Now, we all know that the internet has a myriad of resources. The role of the teacher here is actually scaffolding those resources so that you're directing exactly which ones you'd like the students to explore within a learning journey. So you would have noticed that there are various different frameworks that have been used within some of those hyperdocs to make sure that it's not just a nice looking doc with a whole lot of things that you can click on, that there is actually a process, right? So the idea is that students could be collaborating in a hyperdoc together. They could be working on their own hyperdoc, and we'll get to the how-to of that in a second. The main thing is that students are not just consuming. I think for me as a teacher, one of the key shifts that I saw when integrating technology into my classroom, initially I was having the students use tech to consume information. But for me, the real magic started to happen when the shift moved to students creating with the technology. So the first thing that I ever had my students do was make video clips. And then that kind of moved on to using various different tools to create things to demonstrate their understanding. Because unfortunately, as you and I both know, the traditional test and examination is not the only way that I can demonstrate to you that I understand something. And that caters to specific learning styles or tendencies. So you can have a look through these. I'm not going to hop on about this point. But the idea is that students are actually applying their learning. That it's not just clicking and looking at a whole bunch of stuff. So obviously we want these hyperdocs to be cultivating the 4 C's. I'm pretty sure you've all heard about these a million times. If you haven't, then I'm not sure where you have been. But welcome to the 21st century and the 4 C's, buzzwords for everyone. But for me, the idea is, well, how do we do this with hyperdocs then, right? How do we actually make this happen? I want to just chat you through these 3 models, and I'd like you to think about which one resonates with you the most, because then we're going to give you an opportunity to actually use some templates to create your own, or at least start creating your own hyperdoc. Okay. So the first one is the explore, explain, apply, create mode. So what you have just done for me, by the way, is to explore. The see, think, wonder. What was I asking you to do? Explain. Right? What do you see? What do you think? What do you wonder? I need to check that your exploration was valid and it generated learning and understanding. And then what I'm going to need you to do is to apply your learning or to create me something that shows me that you really know what you're talking about. Simple pedagogy, but really powerful. Okay, so that's one model that we can use for a hyperdoc. Short, sweet, 3 phases to the point, nothing gigantic, right? And it could look something like this. So under the explore, I can give you some links, some resources. Then I could include a task associated with that exploration. Then with explain, I can give you some tools recommended and say, use one of these tools to demonstrate your learning. Applying this, then that could be a test, it could be an assessment, it could be a problem-solving context, etc. And then the student task. Make sense? Seem doable? Right. So that's one model. Then another model is this workshop model, which kind of actually combines traditional instruction with digital technology. So somebody raised a very valid point. What if my students don't have access? Okay, maybe they can go and sit in a lab, but they're not going to sit in a lab for 3 hours and look at my hyperdoc. Okay, maybe they will have 10 minutes, 15 minutes to go and do part of that. Okay? So the idea here is that we start off with some kind of connection. So before the lesson, there is a video, there's something that is drawing them into the learning. Then we do this, face-to-face. Okay, lecture, traditional instruction. Followed by that, there is some kind of engagement activity that collaboratively engages all the students. Then we move on to independent application. So that collaborative activity could actually be done in class or in a lab, etc. Then we move on to independent application, and then we share back. What have you learned? What have you created? Okay, so that's another model that you might want to use, which combines the traditional instruction. And then the last one, which is a bit of a misnomer because it's the basic hyperdoc, but it's the most complex, is kind of an expansion of the first one. So some of you would have seen examples of this. Engage, explore, explain. Did you notice that I've been using those words in the classroom as topics? Okay. So hook them in, have them explore something, then have them explain, and then we move on to the application, sharing what you're doing, and then this stuff which we don't do nearly enough of in education. We're all guilty of that. Having students reflect and offering opportunities for extension. And because a hyperdoc is self-paced, some will get you and some won't. And that's absolutely fine. Okay. Any comments or questions about the theory at this stage before we move on to the practicality? Don't look so shell-shocked, it's going to be okay. Alright. Okay, so I'm going to hop on now and show you in Google Classroom how we're going to move forward. So because I have preloaded this in the classwork section, we've already done the explore and explain. I'm going to share this with you so that you can go back and look at it. But I think we've spent enough time on the theory. There's just some other ways of explaining what a hyperdoc is. A little bit of fun, which I will just post out to you so that you can see that. You can come back and have a look at them later. I think you've seen enough for now. We want to get into the hands-on bits. But as far as the application goes, alright, so ideally, in an ideal world, we want to plan before we implement, particularly when we're doing something for the first time. So what I have is I've started posting this post, but I haven't done the actual completion of it because I wanted to do this live for you, right? So using Google Classroom, which links to Google Drive, which I know that many of you are using. If we click on the Google Drive icon, this is now going to take me to my Google Drive. And I'm just going to do a search for my HyperDocs planning tool. Okay. So I've attached my HyperDocs planning tool for you. But now you all need your own copy of this because you want to work on it and you want to do your planning. Right? So over here, the default is that students can view the file. That's the setting that I used earlier to show you the examples. In this instance, what I want to use is another setting, which is the beautiful digital photocopier called Make a Copy for Each Student. Alright? So I'm going to click Make a Copy for Each Student. Out of interest's sake, that middle option would allow you all to collaborate on that one document. So that could be useful for brainstorming, etc. But now we need you each to have your own one. Okay? So I'm going to use that Make a Copy for Each Student, and I'm going to assign that to you. What will happen now is that when you go back to the main part of the classroom, you will now see that HyperDocs planning tool will have your name on it. Literally. Okay? So if you go back now by clicking on the title up here where it says interactive, you'll see this assignment. If you click on that assignment, it will take you to something like this, but you will actually see your own name. Okay, that's because it's pulling from your Google ID. And I, as a teacher, marvelously, can now see the work of all of my students. See on the right there? That's all of you. So now I've got eyes on the process of your learning and not just the product, which is so often the problem. Because I only get to know what's happened when I mark that test. Whereas I could have potentially identified something going wrong earlier on in the process had I had eyes on the process. Okay, so I'm going to post 2 assignments now for you because I acknowledge that not everybody is going to want to do the planning in great detail. And I'm sure you're more than I'm sure you're more than capable of doing your own planning. What I do want to just show you is, obviously you want to think about the objectives of your HyperDoc, which area of content you want to cover, what it is that you want to engage students in. Then you want to think about the cycle of learning. So which of these models do you want to use? Okay? Each of these will actually give you a link to a template for that version. Okay, I will post them separately in Classroom for you now. But if I click, for instance, if I wanted to use this basic HyperDoc version, if I open up that link, there's the basic HyperDoc lesson plan. I can then say, 1 second to load, this guy. Okay, so these ones are view only. Those are the ones where you can have a look at which example you'd like to use. And then in the classroom, I will post for you. 1 second. All of the templates. Okay, so as part of the planning, generally what happens is people get to that point in the planning and then they start making the HyperDoc and they don't finish the rest of the planning. I'm not a policewoman, you can do what you like, here at learners. But if you'd like to use one of these, I've set it so that you've each got a copy of all of these different ones. And now going forward, you'll be able to just click File, make a copy, and you can carry on making your own copies of these as much as you like. Okay, I'll come and help you with the practicality of that now. So I'm going to assign that to you as well. So what we're looking at is we're doing some planning. Think about which of those versions will suit the content that you're wanting to deliver. Then you might want to think about whether you would like to use docs or slides. They're kind of linked over there. Then when we're talking about workflow, how are you going to get that doc to your students? How are they going to get it back to you? If you're using Google Classroom, I'll show you in a second how I can now just hop in and have a look at your docs. And then lastly, you might want to think about some of the design. You don't have to do the planning, I'm just giving you that as a resource. The idea is now that you're going to have some time to, once this is finished assigning, you're going to have some time to actually play around with the hyperdoc. Okay, and start to think about how you would design your own domain. I'm going to give you some time to play with that, and then I'm going to come and plant some seeds as to the kinds of other tech tools that you can integrate into this at various different stages of the process. Okay, but for now, have a look and actually start playing around and seeing if you can get your head around it for yourself. Let me just change over to this network and see if I can assign this to you. So it does take a little bit of time because what it's done now is it's created for each of you a duplicate of each of those templates. Okay, so if you now head over, make sure you click on the title just so you get to the top. That create your own hyperdoc using one of those templates will take you to something that looks like this. You can now click on it and you can edit away for yourself. What I recommend that you do first is if you're going to want to create more in future, that you maybe make yourself a copy before you change this one. So you've got a blank copy that will be sitting in your Google Drive, and then you can do that one like that. So on any of these now, if you click File, Make a Copy, you'll be able to make your own copies for later use. I'm just recommending that you do the copy before you edit the one that I've given you, because then you're going to have an edited one that you're going to have to work with. Does that make sense? I'm seeing a lot of shell-shocked faces. Let me come around and answer individual questions. I think that'll work. Okay, but have a play, get creating on your hyperdocs. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. Use a template, start thinking about actual content that you would need your students to engage with. You can make a hyperdoc about what you're going to do this weekend, but you might as well invest the next 20 minutes into starting to create something that you could actually use with your students. Okay, so it may be helpful for you to, it looks like most of you have got the hang of the working with the hyperdoc structure. There's some nice things happening there. Just some ideas that I have put together, and you can go back and refer to this on the site just by clicking through the slideshow. But what I've done is I've put some thought into which, Dick actually spoke earlier about the toolbox. And I had this on the slide before you spoke about it, I promise. And it's like this, I have a slide of that. And it's essentially, hyperdocs is a tool, it's something that we can use. We're using Google Classroom in this instance as a delivery platform. And actually initially I offered to just do a Google Classroom 101 session in this session, and then I was asked to incorporate some more tools, so I have done so. These are just tools that I like, that I've found to be useful. Most of them, well, they all are free or at least have some level of free access, right? I don't like really paying for stuff. Right, you might find some of these tools useful at other stages in the process. But I've tried to use that kind of basic hyperdoc model. All of these are live, so they'll actually take you to the site. But just to highlight a couple, we've already experienced Answer Garden. Google Forms is fantastic for online self-marking assessments. Edpuzzle, there was actually an example of an Edpuzzle in the Newton's Laws hyperdoc. Great for making videos interactive. So it's one thing to say to students, go and watch this video on YouTube. It's another thing to be able to embed into that video your own comments, some questions, a note or two, an idea, extra information, and essentially what happens is that as a teacher, you then get the data of which student watched the video to which point how many times, as well as self-marking assessments of the questions that you've put in that video. So that's a really powerful tool which you can go and explore if you haven't heard of Edpuzzle yet. One of my favorites there is Insert Learning, which is a Chrome extension, which allows you to put questions, comments, etc. into existing web pages. So again, just adding your own personal touch, making that learning more interactive and engaging. Also ThingLink, where you can create interactive graphics and visuals. Then as far as assessment goes, my new favorite tool is Flipgrid. Anyone ever heard of Flipgrid? So what Flipgrid does is it allows you to collect video responses. So in the beginning, yes.
We'll use it for the afternoon session.
Right, there we go. So you can go to the session this afternoon to find out how to use Flipgrid. But essentially it allows you to, as a teacher, collect almost like a digital pinboard of videos. So in the beginning when I asked you to introduce yourself, I could have used Flipgrid for that. And you could have held up your camera and said, I am so-and-so from blah, blah, blah. And everybody can then engage with each other's videos. Right, so a very powerful tool over there. Also just great for having students verbalize their understanding, little 30-second videos, etc. And then there are some more tools here, and I don't want to spend too much time on tools, but I know there's some of you that are looking for tools for various things, so I've just tried to categorize those. These are tools for kind of demonstrating understanding through some kind of storytelling or presentation. There's another slide over here with some more. Explain Everything and Book Creator are probably my two favorites on that one. So Book Creator allows your students to create digital interactive multimedia books online, and Explain Everything is like a virtual whiteboard app which runs on a tablet. So your student can actually, or you can record your lesson. Okay? And then, of course, we want our students to reflect and to share their learning back. So there's some tools there. And you'll see that some of them have been repeated, right? I can see their uses at various different stages of the learning process. So, let's just see how we're doing for time. We've got 12 minutes left. Right. Are there any particular burning questions at this point? Yes.
I don't know if I'm slow, but the slide that you just had on,
Yes.
is it on our notes here?
Yes, so if you scroll down to the thing that says Hyperdocs,
Okay.
that whole slideshow is embedded in that site. So you can just use the little arrows at the bottom, and it will take you through all of the slides that I've used today. So you've got all of those, they're not going anywhere, that's why I've just gone through them quickly and given you some highlights. And as I said, none of those tools are strictly only for that purpose, but it's just around how you can use them. Another really powerful thing that I've found is that you don't have to know how to use the tool to ask your students to use it. So one of the things, I got so tired of listening to PowerPoint after PowerPoint after PowerPoint, and I was like, okay guys, I'm going to show you these 3 slides, different apps, different tools. Go play around with them, go pick one, and show me your understanding using one of those tools. You really don't have to know how to work every single one of those tools. You will never EdTech as a massive gaping black hole. You will get sucked in and you will feel petrified. I know that's what some of you are feeling when you see all that. You're like, oh, I wrote all of those tools, right? If you take one of those every 2 months and engage with it, you're making progress. But as far as student creation is concerned, give them the plethora and encourage them to show you their understanding using one of those tools. You don't have to know how to do it all, I promise. Okay. Alright, so what I'd like us to do now is the last little activity, which is actually going to demonstrate to you one of the other tools that I mentioned up there. Anyone familiar with Padlet? Anyone heard of Padlet? Just okay. So let's hop over to here. Alright, so now we're going to do a little bit of a reflect and share. So I'm going to assign that to you so that you can see it, and then we'll open it up. So Padlet is a collaborative post-it wall, is kind of how I think about it, right? But the great thing about it is that you don't only have to put words, you can put images, you can put text, you can put links. So it's a really nice place of having your students interact with each other and share resources, share ideas, share thoughts. So what I'd like for you to do for me now is to reflect on this process of learning about HyperDocs, reflect on the process that we've been through this morning. I'm hoping that you've seen that I've actually followed that engage, explore, explain, apply, create, and now we're at the reflect and share, so you can actually think about that process yourself. So when you get to, are you seeing the little pink button in the bottom right hand corner? Can you add to that Padlet? No. Okay, so when you get to this Padlet, you'll see there are plus buttons underneath all of the columns. You don't have to add to all of them. You can decide what you feel like contributing to. The contributions are anonymous. So unlike in classroom where they were linked to your names, you can now give me your honest reflections. So what I'd like to know from you is, did you have any aha moments in the session? Do you still have any questions or wonderings that we can maybe address for you? Is there a challenge you're currently facing that HyperDocs may help solve with your students? And then lastly, if you want to add a GIF or an image to show me how you're feeling right now, you're welcome to do that. So if you go to the classroom, easiest thing is to click on the title. This one over here, please take a moment to visit this Padlet. If you click on that, then you'll see the link to open the reflect and share Padlet. So if you want to, what I would like very much to do going forward is to, as I said in the beginning, to create a community of practice within people like yourselves in higher ed, using and doing things like this. So if you're on the website, I have put up a little share your HyperDocs page. Obviously they're not done right now, I understand that, but I do hope that some of you will in time actually compile one and give it a go. If you do that, sorry, let me just get the right bit. If you do that, on the share your HyperDocs page is a little Google form. And once you have filled in that form, it's having a cadenza. But once you've filled in that form, I've actually popped in, and I'll change the sharing permissions, the responses to that. So as you submit your HyperDocs and say, here's one that I created for this particular purpose with my students, those will then show up over here. So we can keep this going as we move forward, and you'll be able to then access each other's HyperDocs and see those. I'll set that those permissions up. Then as far as the question about Google goes, so now of you are saying, do you have to use Google for HyperDocs? How does it work? All of that kind of thing. I don't want to take everybody's time in this session to bore you with info if it's not relevant to you, but I am happy to spend the first kind of 10 minutes of lunch talking particularly about the Google part of this. So if you do want some more information on how the Google Education Platform works, on getting started with Google Classroom and that kind of thing, I've obviously chosen to use that as a tool because I really believe that it works and the Google stuff integrates beautifully together. But you could create a HyperDoc in Word, in theory, as long as you have a way of sharing it with your students using whatever platform. So the platform is not specifically Google. I love using Google, it's my thing, but you could create a HyperDoc using any platform as long as you have the means to share that with your students. What I do really like about this is that if, for instance, I wanted to see my student's work, I can actually come and click on my student's name, and I can see over here, if I click on the student's work, I can hop right into the doc where she has been working, and I've got some options of giving her some feedback and some comments on her work. Obviously she hasn't done any editing on this one yet, but throughout the process I can have eyes on my students' work. If you send it out and have your students engage with it and have them send it back to you, then it changes the dynamic slightly, so that's one of the reasons why I enjoy that platform so much. But I hope that this morning's session has at least given you some ideas. I've also got some slides in the deck, which I'm not going to read to you, because you're all perfectly capable, of just summarizing some ideas of why hyperdocs are such a powerful resource and such a powerful way of working with them. You've seen a lot of these for yourselves, you've identified a lot of these characteristics. But I will leave you with this thought, and thank you very much for your time. I know that time is an enemy for all of us. I know that it's a common scapegoat for not innovating and for not trying new things. But I've learned that actually investing time in creating meaningful, engaging learning experiences for our students is never wasted. Time spent standing, talking to people where they might not be listening to you, that sometimes can actually be less powerful or less conducive to learning. So I'm happy to engage with you. I'll be around over lunch if anybody wants to chat further. I'll wrap up this session now and I'll do a quick little chat about Google for education and kind of how it works if anyone has questions specific to that. But my contact details are on the slide. If you're not on Twitter yet, as Prof said this morning, get on Twitter. That's where 90% of my EdTech learning actually comes from, is seeing what educators out there are doing with the tools. We have a hashtag ZAEdu monthly Twitter chat. It actually happened last night, so if you go onto Twitter and search for hashtag ZAEdu, you will see a community of education practitioners from around the country last night who were discussing project inquiry and challenge-based learning. But we have a different topic every month, so it would be great if some of you would join in that conversation. That is my professional profile with resources, information, my bio, and then the link at the bottom there is to my blog where occasionally, i.e. once every 6 months, I write some thoughts about integrating technology as teaching and learning. But thank you very much for your time, your energy, your enthusiasm. It's been wonderful working with you, and have yourselves a great lunch and enjoy the rest of the conference.
An announcement from Noma.
Sure.